Hi guys, welcome to my talk and thank you for listening. Today I'm going to present on ISN, especially the medical team, how we face the challenges of COVID-19. I'm Dr. Kamarul Hussein, the Director of the Sports Medicine Division. Okay, for the content, I'm going to talk about the introduction as well as the recap of the COVID-19 in Malaysia from January until current situation. And then I'm going to talk about ISN works together with MSN on the quarantine of our national athletes during the second wave, followed with ISN medical team work together with the Ministry of Health, and then ISN medical team volunteering together with the NGO of Imaret, followed by the RTT or Road to Tokyo camp, and then the new norms, followed by the current situation, which is the third wave. Okay, for recap, on the 21st of January, there's a first case in Malaysia was detected. The patient is from China, in whereabout he traveled from Singapore. And on the 2nd of February, we have the first case of a Malaysian patient. He also traveled from Singapore. And then on the 27th of February is the second wave. As you know, there were three clusters, big clusters, which is the UDA cluster. And we have the Tabligh cluster located in Sri Petaling, as well as the Immigration Depot Bukit Jalil. If you happen to know, ISN or the National Sports Institute located in Bukit Jalil itself. On the 16th of March, we have the first national athletes with a positive case. Actually, he's the only one with a positive case. He was detected when he was in Miri. Because of that, we started to quarantine our national athletes who are having a close contact with the positive athletes, as well as the athletes who are returned from overseas. And then on the 20th September, it was the third wave. As you happen to know, is from the Sabah cluster as well as the Kedah cluster. Okay, the trend. So as you can see, the first wave, it was started on the 24th of January until the 13th of January. And then the second wave started from 25th of February until the 2nd of July. While the third wave started on the 20th of September. Okay, early on, ISN together with MSN and also the Sports Association, we had a briefing whereby we invited a speaker from the Infection Control Division, a doctor from the Ministry of Health. From there on, she gave an overview of the current situation of the COVID-19 and around the world. And from there on, we had a meeting with the Sports Association, and it came out the decision is not to travel or compete in 5 countries, which are from China, South Korea, Italy, Iran, and Japan, because during that time, those countries have the most COVID cases. And then on the 12th of March, Football Association Malaysia, or FAM, held a meeting and came up with a decision whereby they decided to postpone all the Football League matches starting on 16th of March. Then on the 18th of March, our Prime Minister declared or MCO, Movement Control Order. So police and army were controlling the traffic. They are having roadblocks to make sure there's not many people on the roads and traveling all over Malaysia. And then we had a bad news. On the 24th of March, the Tokyo Olympics 2020 will be postponed to summer 2021 next year. So what happened? most of our athletes have been sent home. As you know, there were about 8 operations from January to March. So because of that, we still continue post-op rehab at home via the tele-rehabilitation. So ISN with MSN managing athletes, those who have been quarantined. So those who have been quarantined are quarantined at the athletes hostel in Casa 1 at MSN itself in Bukit Jalil. At that time, ISN MSN, we formed a COVID-19 task force, and also we set up a medical operation room on the 15th of March 2020. So altogether, there were about 106 admin surveillance comprised of athletes, coaches, as well as support staff, which are for the medical side as well as the sports sides. There were about 32 people who are close contact to the positive case of the national athletes, where there are 58 people, athletes, coaches, and support staff who are returned from overseas. So all of them have been quarantined at the Casa 1 as well as the Bukit Kiara for the badminton players and coaches. So altogether, there were about 83 tests were done with 3 retesting, and all of the tests were negative during that time. So all of them were being discharged. So these are the Academy Badminton Malaysia, or ABM, at Bukit Kiara, where the badminton players and coaches have been quarantined. So we did a COVID test, the PCR COVID test. We take the nasal and throat swab sample on the 18th of March at 9 a.m. And then at 11 a.m., we took a sample at the ISN for the remaining athletes and coaches. These were taken at Bukit Jalil. And then at 2 p.m., we sent athletes and coaches, those with a close contact, to take the PCR COVID test at the PKD Cheras, Ministry of Health. It was done on the same day for all the athletes and coaches. The result came out on the 20th of March, and luckily all were negative. So all the athletes and coaches, they were allowed to discharge, but they have to continue to be home quarantined for 14 days. So what happened next? The athletes hostel, or the Casa 1 in MSN Bukit Jalil, were chosen to be one of the quarantine centers by Ministry of Health. So there were about 12 ISN medical staff who are involved and work together with the Ministry of Health to man or help on the quarantine center. It was started on the 2nd April until 27th of May 2020. So it was declared as a red zone for that area. Operational room was set up. There were RELA members, APM, Ministry of Health, MSN staff, ISN staff. So we worked together. These were the buses that ferry the tablet cluster from the Sri Petaling Mosque. So those tablet clusters, they have to do tests, and apparently there were few positive cases. So this is our medical staff. They have to wear PPE level 3 when they transfer the patient or positive cases to the hospital for admission. These are the photos during the swab taking. And on the right side is sending off positive patient to the hospital. This is an ISN ambulance during sending off, transfer patients to the hospital. These are the photos of our ISN and the Ministry of Health medical staff working together. And on the right side, they work also during the Hari Raya Aidilfitri. This is when all the tests were negative and the tablet clusters completed their quarantine and they are allowed to be discharged. These are pictures, drawing by the children who are also being quarantined. Infographic on the day one. It was opened on the 1st of April. There were about 168 tablet clusters. And then it was replaced by other clusters from the Selayang, from the Kampung Baru. It was closed until 29th of May because the MSN hostel need to be used for the Road to Tokyo camp. Okay, at the same time, there's another medical group who works with NGO or volunteering with the NGO Emirat in distributing medical equipments and food all around Malaysia, starting from the 1st April to 30th of June. So our medical staff help out the NGO Emirat in distributing the PPE, medical equipments, as well as foods to clinics, hospital, all around Malaysia. The person on the right is Dr. Munawar. He is the Chief Coordinator of the Emirat, and he is also our Medical Officer of ISN, which is currently pursuing his studies Masters in Sports Physician. So the guys on the left, on the right is Mr. Mujib and Mr. Fakul Faiz is our Maswers for ISN, work tirelessly sending all the medical equipments all around Malaysia. As you know, most of the hospital and clinics, they are out of stocks of PPE. I'm very proud of my staff for working very hard during the MCO. As for this, the ISN medical staff pack foods bought by the Emirat, whereby sending the food to the Selayang cluster. This is the depot for the food to be distributed. That's me on the highlights. Okay, and then on the 26th of May, this is our Director General, Tan Sri Datuk Dr. Noor Hisham Abdullah. So the WHO and the Ministry of Health, they came out with the new guidelines where those positive patients can be discharged after 14 days, where after 14 days, they are no more infectious to other people. As you know, we have one positive case of our national athletes. He was admitted since 16th of March. So he was, during the whole duration, he has a positive test of a PCR. So because of this, he was allowed to be discharged after 2.5 months of warded at the Miri Hospital. So after that, we sent him for medical checkup as well as for cardiac assessment, assessed by a sports cardiologist in UITM Hospital by Dr. Rizmi. Once he was cleared, then he was allowed to return to train again. So then we proceed the Road to Tokyo camp on the 1st of till 30th of June, whereby MSN and ISN with the KBS ministry, we request from the MKN to allow our athletes, especially those who are Olympic bound, allow them to train earlier. So MKN agrees with that, but he has to be in the quarantines. It has to be in a quarantine setup. So on the 1st of June, at the Bukit Kiara, the badminton players start to check in and also they have to do a swab test for COVID test. There were about 18 athletes, 7 coaches, 4 ISN sport medicine support staff, as well as 2 sports performance support staff. They'll be staying in Bukit Kiara, they'll be having their meal there, as well as training and give services to the athletes. They are not allowed to travel outside from the Bukit Kiara PBM. This is during their badminton training session. They are allowed to train once their results came out as negative. This is our muscles who gave a recovery session to our players. They have to wear PPE all time when they give massage. This is for sailing athletes. They check in at the Langkawi Training Center on the 1st June as well. There were about 9 athletes, 3 coaches, and 3 ISN sport medicine support staff, as well as 2 sports performance support staff. On the left is our medical staff, which is our physiotherapists, our medical assistant, as well as our muscle. On the right picture is they have to also undergo for COVID test. This is during their training session, as well as our physiotherapists giving treatment to our athletes using a correct PPE. And then on the 8th of June, Bukit Jalil itself, the athletes check in for the training. There were about 53 athletes, also the para-athletes, with 28 coaches, 12 sports medicine support staff, as well as 13 sports performance support staff. This is during the registration, as well as swab sampling. So once the results are negative, they are allowed to train. This is our archers during the training sessions, our para-athletics athletes during the training sessions, our karate athletes, we have our para-cyclists, our para-badminton players, powerlifting athletes, as well as boccia athletes, our para-tennis athlete, as well as para-table tennis athletes. During the RTT camp, our medical staff gives a lot of treatment, physiotherapy treatments, sports massage as well. So these are our sports medicine staff who has to stay for 1 month quarantine at the MSN Casa Bukit Jalil. They did a splendid job. So the new norms or the SOPs, because of the COVID, ISM medical team, we came out with SOPs for all units, for all services. This is example, 2 of these. One is for the clinic during the consultation. So what type of PPE has to be wear by the doctors, by the nurses, by the PPK, as well as by the patient. And the bottom is the prevention method. Okay, has maximum in a consultation room is 4 people maximum. Whereas on the right side is the SOPs for the physios. What PPE has to be wear by the physios. And then at the physio treatment area, what need to be done. Okay, as you know, the new norm has been advised to wear masks, also physical distancing. So from the Lancet journal, you can see if there's a physical distancing 1 meter or more, the infection rates will be less, from 12.8% to 2.6%. And if you wear face masks, the infection rate will be reduced from 17.4% to 3.1%. And if you wear eye protection or face shield, there'll be reduced infection rate from 16.0% to 5.5%. So from the Ministry of Health advises to avoid 3S or 3C. 3C means crowded places, avoid confined spaces, as well close conservation. and to apply 3W, which is to wash your hands all times, to wear face mask or face shield, and warn means no hand touching or no shake hands at all. However, you can see in the public places, there are still people who are ignoring these advices. Those are not wearing face masks at all. Maybe they are denied in sciences, or maybe they didn't wear correctly, means a face mask put below the nose or at the chin. Okay, could be they doesn't understand the science or they believes in magic. But as you see, even though there's an evidence base saying the infection rate can become lower if you wear face mask or eye protection with physical distancing, but people still ignore these advices and this evidence base. I don't know why. Here at ISN, any staff or athletes who want to enter the premises has to wear face masks at all times. We also installed a sink to wash their hands at the entrance there. I think this is the only building who installed sink. As you can see, the athletes have to scan My Sejahtera before entering, and then take their temperature using a thermal scan, as well as using the automatic sanitizer and clean her hand. When they approach the main counter, there's a distance about 1 meter apart. Our staff counter also has to wear face mask and face shield, and we also install a media barrier, a glass barrier. Okay, so when our athletes see our doctors for consultation, our doctors also has to wear face masks all the time. And during examination, our doctor has to wear apron, face shield, as well as gloves. This is during procedure, so our doctors again has to wear the proper PPE as a prevention method. Okay, again, this is our physiotherapists wearing a proper PPE with face shield, apron, and gloves when giving physiotherapy treatment or applying tapes. As for our masseurs, they also have to wear gloves when massage the athletes. Okay, this is very important. When the athletes entering the gym, again, they have to do a scan of My Sejahtera, use the hand sanitizer, and after they use the equipments, they need to clean the equipments. Okay, these are statistics of the new case injury in 2020. In January, there were about 178 cases of injuries. Then it goes down to 147 to 89 in March when the cases of COVID were increasing. Then there were no cases in April. Then in May, there's a slight of injury, 5. Then it goes up to 24 during the Road to Tokyo camp. Then once the athletes started to train again, in July, you can see about 134 injuries. In August, there were 119 injuries. And in September, there were about 181 injuries. There are a few operation cases. In January, there were 1. And then in February, there were 4 cases. Then in March, there were 3 cases. And then in April, May, and June, most of the operating theater in hospital were closed. So there were no operation done during that time. So we have to postpone the operation cases to July, August, and September. So there were about 6 cases being operated in July. Then there were 5 in August. Then there were 2 in September. And again, 6 in October. So the current situation where currently is a 3rd wave. So our defense minister announced the CMCO, or the Condition Movement Control Order, to be held again in Selangor, in KL and Putrajaya from 14 till 27 of October. However, our athletes are allowed to train, but it has to be a quarantine-based training. Means they will be in MSN Bukit Jalil training area. They'll be sleeping at the hostel, train at the same area, and they're not allowed to go out. As for ISN, we continue and providing sports science and medicine service to our national athletes during this time, as well as we set up our medical COVID operational room again. As you can see, the trend has been increasing slowly from 1st October to 160 cases, and then to 500 cases, now 660 cases, and the latest yesterday was 629 cases. Currently, our infographic for the ISN MSN COVID-19 task force, we have surveillance about 140 people, coaches and athletes. So far, we have done 15 testing, and we have found 8 to be negative, 7 results still pending. And then we have discharged about 85 people. So far, there are about another 55 who has to be self-quarantined. So they are not allowed to train at this time. Okay, as a summary, I have to say that life goes on. It's just that we have to used to the new norms and the SOP. As you know, now everyone has to wear masks. Initially in January, not many people wearing masks, but nowadays everyone has to wear masks. Okay, so life goes on, and we hope that by end of this year there will be a COVID-19 vaccines, so that our athletes can compete for the Tokyo Olympics as well as the Tokyo Paralympic Games next year. Lastly, for me, together we face mask COVID-19 threat. Thank you very much.